Welcome to the inaugural episode of Better Together, a podcast by the Work Skills Foundation. My name is Rob Johnson. I'm your temporary host only for episode 1. Joining me in the studio, and she will be the host moving forward, is Julie Smith, Development Director at Work Skills.
Hey, Rob.
How are you?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm great. So do you remember the first time we had a podcast together?
I do.
Do you remember how wildly uninformed I was about what it is you do?
I don't.
Oh, see, I do, because I remember that vividly. It was like one of the first 5 episodes of the Chamber podcast, and we were talking about work skills, and I was trying to piece together what work skills, does like ahead of time. And then what I found is that it's such a large corporation in terms of all the different divisions. It's difficult to summarize it into a couple of sentences. And that was the struggle I had, because we were talking about housing development that you guys were working on for assisted living. And then we started talking about the foundation and then Artisans Corner. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't track. I kept thinking it was one thing, and it's so much more than that. So
welcome to my world.
So the purpose of this podcast is twofold. One is to let people know about all of the great things that Work Skills is doing from top to bottom. And 2, it's to talk about the partners and players who are associated with Work Skills and all of the great work that they do associated with the foundation, the corporation. So we're going to go through all of the ins and outs. And you're, in my opinion, the person at the center of it all. So I'm happy that you're going to be hosting and leading this podcast moving forward.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited too.
Well, good. And I'm glad you're excited. It's good that we have buy-in from our hosts. It's important. So the other person that's not here is Stacy, is a member of the she's actually the chair of the Work Skills Foundation board. Is that right? Is she not
That's
the chair?
close.
What is she?
She is on the foundation board,
She's not the
as
chair?
are you, and she's the chair of the development committee.
Who's the president of the foundation board?
The chair of the foundation board is Danielle Maj.
That's right. I like
You
her
knew
a lot.
that.
I knew that. For whatever reason, I was conflating both of them as one person.
That's how the board is, right? Like they're one big amoebic mass. I made that word up, but gelatinous. I don't know. Like I love our board.
Well, it's nice because it's one of the first boards I've served on that's very much wanting to serve from top to bottom. So everything that they do is out of what's going to work best for the foundation. How are we going to serve people in the best way possible? And it's one of the only times I've seen leadership properly spread throughout a board. So it doesn't feel like there's one person at the top barking down. It is very collaborative.
Yes, and now you understand why we wanted you to join the board.
It's been very nice. So much so that I can't remember who the chair of the board is.
Hey, you're new. It's okay.
All right. Yeah, 9 months in, we'll give me a break.
Okay, and remember, how often does the foundation board meet?
Quarterly.
There you go. So you've been to what? 2 meetings?
2.
Yeah, well, okay. We have one coming up soon, so you'll know who's who.
And I'll be there.
Perfect. Thank
That
you.
way I can remember who's who.
I'll supply name tags and those little table tents.
I love it. That'll be very helpful for me. So let's talk about work skills. So let's say we're at a networking event. I come up to you. So I'm Rob, Wayne Media. And then you introduce yourself from Work Skills. I'm like, oh, I've never heard of Work Skills. What is that?
That is my opportunity to say, when do you have time to come for a visit?
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding, right? So we have an umbrella of services, and we have broken it down into 3 areas: living, learning, and working. I should check and make sure that's right. Learning, working, and living. So I had the right things, just in the wrong order. And under the umbrella, look, I am a hand talker.
You're right. It's not loud talking, so that's all that matters.
Under the umbrella, there are 8 divisions, right? So I love networking, and it's really difficult to put into words briefly and eloquently what Work Skills is.
Yeah, it's an expansive organization, and when you come and do the tour, I've done the tour. We're going to be sending some of our employees to do the tour here soon, and when you take that tour and you take an hour roughly to walk through, 45 minutes to an hour, you really do understand every component of Work Skills. Some people, however, don't have time to do the tour. So for those people, how do you summarize it for them?
We are a nonprofit. We are celebrating 50 years in 2023. And basically, we help people become successful. And this is people of all abilities. That's my nutshell.
So what would a typical person coming to Work Skills for services, what type of position would they be in? And I know it varies, but let's just give some examples so people can get an understanding.
Absolutely. So the way we refer to people we work with is as clients or participants, and it's anybody with a barrier. And the barrier, can you see like the flow chart? And then we're here, now we're here, now we're here.
Absolutely.
So a barrier is anything that could prevent someone from finding or maintaining a job. Like that's it in a nutshell. We work with people who have developmental intellectual disabilities. We work with people who may have a physical limitation. It's literally anything that could make it difficult for someone to find a job.
Yeah. So there's a subset of our population that has barriers, that can't find employment, whether it's due to mental, physical disabilities, past history, things like that. And Work Skills is there to give them a vehicle to be able to find employment, to be able to find, I don't want to say necessarily a purpose, but just to find a mechanism for them to go and perform and be a member of, serving society.
Right. And that's the whole idea, is that people can become successfully employed, which means they get a paycheck, which means they're now contributing members of the community. And don't ever negate the word purpose, because work is such a huge part of what we do and how we all spend our lives. So when you have a job, it does give you a sense of purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just didn't want to make it seem like that was the only, like if you're unemployed, there's no purpose. I didn't want to come from that perspective. I think, and I love, being that I've had an understanding of what Work Skills done for almost 3 years now and being involved. And that was really started at that first Chamber podcast. And then from there I went and did a tour. And then last year you guys invited me on the board for the foundation. And it's been an education. And one of the things, and this is just me speaking, so one thing to keep in mind is I'm not the permanent host. My thoughts and views don't necessarily represent Work Skills, but from an outsider's perspective, one thing I constantly heard when I was in the organization was, it's a best kept secret. And it's like, well, we need to stop this. We need to make it not a secret, because it's, in my opinion, one of the most important organizations in Livingston County that everyone should know about. Whether they can use it or not, it needs to be top of mind. So when someone does find a person in one of those barrier circumstances, they know exactly who to recommend them to. So to me, we need to let the secret out. We need to pretend that it's, sophomore year of high school and someone's got a hot secret to tell, and we need to spread that thing throughout the school, and in our case here, the county.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that is how we feel too. I mean, if you think about it, we've been around for 50 years. I know you haven't been, but I have, right? And 50 years is a long time to be in a community. And there are people who are in Livingston County who don't know who we are, who we serve. And not only that, but we're in Washtenaw County as well. So the headquarters is in Brighton, and that's why we're very excited to have this opportunity to help share the stories, because people need to know who we are as a resource.
Yeah, and I've only seen a sampling of the stories and how Work Skills has helped transform people's lives, and we did an interview, and I imagine we're going to be covering this on the podcast, or you and Stacy will be. We did a video for Work Skills with Todd and Ken. So Todd, what does Todd do at Work Skills?
Well, Todd is part of our employment services, and he is also our training specialist. So he's now launched this training. Well, we've launched this training module, and Todd does that. And you've met Todd, and he's sharp. He's personable. He really knows his stuff, and staff and participants just really love him. I mean, There's no other way to say it. You meet him and it's like, oh, I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Yeah, if you could order an ideal training employee from Amazon, Todd is who would show up in the mail.
I'm going to tell him that. Wait, I have Prime. Can I get him tomorrow?
Hopefully he just watches the podcast.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Fingers crossed. So you're exactly right. Like, it's like when you meet someone who's in a position that it's like, oh yeah, that's what they were meant to do. Yep. You know, and then you see how he interacts with Ken and the relationship that they have. And yeah, I think that came through really well in the video of how, you know, Ken's starting point where he is today. And it's been really, really nice to sit back and see those stories unfold all through the vehicle of Work Skills. So Julie, how long have you been involved with Work Skills?
It will be 11 years in February.
11 years in February.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure there's been a tremendous evolution in the company over the last 11 years. So there's been recessions, pandemics, there's been a lot of things that I'm sure have changed the look and feel of Work Skills. What's been one of your favorite recurring themes throughout the company that you've enjoyed the most?
I think my favorite recurring theme is, even through all of those things, we have not disrupted services. For example, during the pandemic, when things shut down, it was really hard for our participants, right? So you and I know, oh, it's Monday through Friday, it's time to go to work. And, oh, I can't go to work today. We have a different perspective than most of our clients. It was really hard for them because that is what they do, even if it's every Tuesday from 9 to 1 or every morning or every Thursday afternoon. To have that not be available was really hard for them. Another thing that was interesting during the pandemic, we do have WSC Home Care, right? You're sort of familiar with that division. Our caregivers never missed a day. I mean, I can tell you our staff were working tons of hours to make sure that our clients were served. And trust me, they were dressed in, head to toe safety stuff. I'm so eloquent. But they had to be safe, right, for themselves and their families, but also for the clients, because some of them were going from one client to the next and in and out of people's homes. And think back to the beginning, it was really scary. Like, I would wash my groceries and leave them out in my garage for 3 days, right? And these people were on the front line, and it's just one of those things that makes me proud to be a part of Work Skills, because the bottom line is we need to take care of our people. We need to serve the people that we serve. Yeah,
I was right out of the pandemic is when you and I had met and started going through Work Skills. And that was one of the first things you had told me, is that, we kept the lights on the entire time. So as everyone else was still trying to navigate and figure out, what is this? You had a job to do, you had work to do, and it kept getting done. And that, to me, the resiliency of Work Skills throughout all of that, and also the commitments that they're making today, the changes, obviously what we're doing on the foundation, like all of that is all going to the betterment of, the organization. And that's what I've enjoyed the most, is the consistency and the service about Work Skills, how they put the clients first, they put the participants first. Everything is revolving around how can we ensure that we are providing the absolute best vehicle for people to be successful.
Amen.
And I love that. And that's why I like being on the foundation so much, is I get to see, what are the events, what are the causes, how is Artisans Corner changing? What are we doing with the golf outing? How are all of those events contributing towards the betterment of people's lives? I will tell you, in the past year, we saw about an 8% increase across the board in our expenses. We never want to not serve our clients. So we had an increase in expenses, and we have wait lists for a couple of our programs. So the bottom line is there's a need for our services. So one of the things we're doing this fall, which is pretty cool, is we're expanding. We have purchased a piece of property that's adjacent to where our headquarters is now on Rickett Road. We are building a new art room, and then our clinical services will be moving into where the art room was. And it's just
So I've been there 11 years, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen walls move. Like, it's what we do, right? If we are able to serve more people because there's a need, then that typically means we need more staff, which means we need more space. And I really laud the exec team for figuring out ways to make it work. And I'm super excited, depending on when this airs, we either will have a lot of our new space done, or we will be wrapping up our new space. We also did some renovations at Plant 2 and added a couple of offices. And again, it's not because everybody needs their own space. It's because we need the staff to provide the services. And we're out of room.
Usually when I do the Chamber podcast or my own podcast, like when I'm interviewing someone, one of the questions I'll ask is, how do people get involved? What's the best thing for them to do? I'm not going to ask you that. I'm just going to tell people what they need to do.
Perfect.
Because for me, we've talked about this a lot, we'll say off the record, so not on a podcast, not in a public forum, but we know what people ought to do, and it's get involved. And the first thing that you need to do is schedule a tour. So on the video, if you're watching the video, there'll be a QR code on the screen that you can scan. That'll take you to a spot that you can get a hold of Julie. You can schedule a tour. And then also, if you're listening on the audio platform, just drop into the show notes and you'll see that same link there that you can click on and schedule a tour. So if you're in Livingston County, Washtenaw County, it's extremely important for you to take an hour out of your day, week, month, whatever it is, and come and look at Work Skills. See all the amazing things they're doing there. The first time I did a tour there, I was sold. Whatever you need from a business perspective, consulting, I'm in. Because it's such a vital part of the community. They are literally restoring people's lives, giving them vehicles to do things that they wouldn't have been able to do had Work Skills not existed. And to me, that's a demonstrably worthy cause that people should get involved in, especially business owners.
So not only will you learn about Work Skills when you come for a visit, but you get to meet the participants, right? And I could talk about Work Skills for hours. Just ask Rob or anybody else who may have met me. But when you come to Work Skills and you get to see our people doing their jobs, right? Whether they're in production or they're in the art room making something new, and they explain to you what they're doing. Oh, this is interesting. What's your favorite part? I get a paycheck. So there's my hard sales tactic thing.
Very nice. Very nice. Great opening. A little rocky on the ending. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, though. It's when you see people having, giving them more purpose, giving them more buy-in, and they're excited about it. And it also changes. One of the things that I think is undervalued and under-talked about at Work Skills is not only are you giving people career habits, but a lot of those habits that they're learning on the job, they're taking into their personal life as well. Organization, self-development, being on time, like all of those aspects that they're learning as they're working, they're also taking home with them and implementing them into their personal lives. So it's not just a vehicle for a job, it's also life skills that they're able to apply in all areas of what they do.
Absolutely. And so we call them worker traits or soft skills. And it's not just of benefit to our participants. As an employee, right, I learn something pretty much every day that I'm there. Like, not only are the participants happy, I mean, sure, everybody has a bad day, well, except you, obviously, but like just appreciating what you have. And these folks do. And if you're at Work Skills and you need a moment, perhaps just walk out onto the production floor and hang out with the cool kids, or walk into the art room and let them tell you what they're doing. It shifts your perspective. It's like, oh my gosh, she's so happy because it's Tuesday afternoon and this is when she comes to Work Skills. And it's like, "Dooey, what's wrong with me?" Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It serves as perspective.
Yeah.
That's important. And you talked about the art room. So I think it was on my tour there. I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs. You guys happen to have a Steve Jobs art piece that was hanging there. And I was like, is this for sale? And you're like, absolutely. So
Everything is for sale.
everything's for sale. So I went ahead and bought that. And interestingly enough, that was one of my client's daughter's pieces. So it was Rachel.
Oh.
So that was interesting because, Rachel and I have a good relationship. So that was just one of those happy coincidences that, that's who ended up making the piece was her daughter. So just one of those interesting things. And that's in my office now. So it's just an incredible organization and people absolutely need to take a tour. All right, so this is obviously episode 1. I'm not going to be the host moving forward. There's far better options in the talent pool than me. And I think you and Stacey are going to do a phenomenal job moving forward. So the look of the podcast is going to be you and Stacey having conversations about work skills and also interviewing key partners of the foundation and the organization overall, clients, and just community members that are already involved or want to be more involved. So that's what I'm most excited about for this show is going to be the networking aspect of it and getting people involved, hearing their feedback, their stories about work skills, what's driving them to be a part of the mission, and then also hearing your and Stacey's inside perspective on it as well.
Yeah, we're excited. We are super excited. So thank you for this opportunity. What a huge gift. What a huge gift.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, anything that Work Skills needs, at Wayne Media, we're down to support because it's an incredible cause and it's something that we absolutely want to stay in the county and we want it to keep growing and we don't want to keep it a secret. So anything that we can do to help contribute to that, we're down for.
All right, we're going to shout it from the rooftops together.
I love it. I love it. So if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, know that this is also a video podcast. It's on YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, know that you can take it with you anywhere on the road as well through any of those fine audio platforms. All right. So what do you say, Julie? We getting out of here?
Yes, please.
Wrapping up episode 1.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So this is going to be a monthly podcast. So look for this podcast on the 1st of every month. Apart from that, we'll catch you on, I won't be here, but Julie will catch you on episode 2 alongside Stacey. So we'll see you then. Take care.